Hello and welcome to BonkTable. I'm Mass and this is a Conquest battle report. This is round 2 of the Saskatoon Tournament, what I played in on the weekend. I am still currently playing the Nords List, so I kind of explain it better, I want to say, in the first episode or the previous one from this. If viewers were like, man, I really love watching horses move around the table, this is the content you really want. I might not go super heavy, but I'll still kind of give the rundown of what's going on. So, Mounted Noble Lord, Oliphane's Roar, Weapon Master, Tip of the Lance. +1 Clash, Terrifying 1 on the charge of Oliphane's Roar. He's sitting in a big block of 5 Household Knights who are all veterans up for that +1 Clash. Turning champion for that 9-inch charge. Tip of the Lance, when they do make that successful charge, they're going to get Cleave +1, and the Noble Lord is going to go to Cleave 2. Noble Lord is also Brutal Impact 2. I did remember that. It's a lot of fun being Brutal Impact 2 on your character. And, he's sitting with those guys. Next, I got 2 units of Mountain Squires. They're veterans. They got a Court Palatine. They're +1 Clash. They're both just, 3 stands running around. That +1 Clash going to Clash 3 for their impacts, and then being inspired to 4 for their Clash attacks. Really nice. Being Speed 9, also really nice. They're just really good, fast unit that can really set that line of engagement and let the rest of the cav list kind of get up the table and set itself up for success to get those Ashen Dawn Anvils in the way, and then come in with the Crimson Tower and the Mounted Noble Lord, Household Knight buff bus in and just smash some people. Lastly, thing in his warband is Household Knights. They're just a standard bearer. There's just 3 stands of them. There's no upgrades on these guys. They're just really there to be in the way, be an anvil, pinner, score the zone. That's their whole job, and they do that well. A lot of the time I have these guys either sitting in the back zone or up there in the zone, and they're just kind of in the way as the rest of the list just kind of does work around them. I have my 2 warlords. Mountain Noble is one of them for speed of horse, give all the Household Knights +1 impact, and what is the other one? Rerolling 6s on the clash attacks. Rerolling 6s on the impacts. So makes them really good for that. Then in my second warband, I got a prior commander of the Crimson Tower. He's got that first blessing supremacy to give blessed to my Order of Crimson Tower and my Ashen Dawn units. If you already got blessed, you get Hardened 1 or +1 attack. I just give Hardened 1 to all my Ashen Dawn because if I really want to tank to survive more, why don't I just make it more tanky? My opponents love it. They don't love it. A lot of people do not love it. Masteries, he's just got Disordering Strikes because I had 10 points left over, and if he ever gets into a duel, -1 Clash might carry him through. Then I got 2 units of Order of the Crimson Tower and 2 units of Order of Ashen Dawn. All 4 of them have standard bearers. That's it. Ashen Dawn, run up the table, set that line of engagement, be that anvil, beat some people to death with Cleave 1. Order of Crimson Tower, swing along later in the game, do their impacts and their charge attack because everyone's tied up with Order of the Ashen Dawn, kill a bunch of stuff. Mountain Squires usually die. It's pretty rare for these guys to make it to the end of the game. Sometimes the MSU unit of Household Knights dies, but those are my 3 throwaway units I found, was the MSU of Household Knights and the 2 Mountain Squire units. If those 3 die and everything else is still around, I'm in a very good position to win the game. If I start losing the big Household Knight bus or a unit of Crimson Tower, or especially the Ashen Dawn, it kind of starts changing around pretty hard. But so far this list has been really good to me and I've been kind of playing it pretty well. So I'm going to slow my rules for everybody, and you can pause the video at any time if there's something that you want to read more about. And yeah, there's my list. Not much to say. It's gone through pretty quick because guess what? Next game, I'm playing the exact same list. You can only talk about the same thing so many times where it's just go back and rewatch it, please. Alright, let's go look at my opponent's list. Here's my opponent's list. He was playing Nords and he called the list Double Mountain. And I think it's because he has 2 units, or not 2 units, but he has 2 Mountain Jotnars in there running around. But we're going to start at the top and work our way down. His warlord is the Volva for the Gift of the Yarnharl supremacy, which gives everyone evasion 1 to a maximum of 2. So it gives you evasion +1. What's actually super nice, puts evasion on a lot of these guys. and they start being a little more tanky and defensible with that evasion. I think it's only on infantry though. I can actually just check that really quick. What's it called? Gift of the Iron Harl. Jeez, let's go find it. Yeah, here we go. While this character stands on the battlefield, all friendly regiments, excluding character stands, add +1 to their evasion characteristic to a maximum of 2. It's always considered to be active. So, as long as the Volva's around, your evasion +1. What's pretty good, especially on Bow Chosen, because their evasion and defense swapped. So now they're back to that evasion 2, so they're super annoying. But they're now range 14, so it's like you can get to them a little better than you could before. So Volva, she is running a figurehead of the Naglafar, what is any successful volley hit rolls against her and her regiment. You got to re-roll, but it's really nice to keep her safe from shooting. Rune of Shielding to give Bastion to the Valkyries, and she's Arcane 1 and Tactical 1. Tactical 1 to get that figurehead with a standard, and she's Arcane 1 to go to Priest 6. I think she's using her healing spell the majority of the game. She doesn't use the K, she doesn't really use the Resolve one. She basically just uses the heal, but you got a 6 block of Valkyries who have Blessed and Devout and everything, so you're probably going to get the heal off really easily because you're Priest 6, you get a free success from Devout. Their shield of support 2, unstoppable because they have the standard bearer, and their defense 2, that shield to 3, and that rune of shielding to 4. And with Bless, that's going to keep them alive a lot. Their big thing is they do not want to be side charged because they lose that shield, which drops their defense, and then if they get a little bit of cleave in there, you can start kind of getting in there to start killing them off. Next character, we got a Jarl with Dragon. That just gets their clash from 3 to 4. Then they're running 6-stand unit of Raiders, who's got a standard and a shield biter. I don't know what a shield biter does. Let's go find that out. Stand your bear. Shield biter. Adds +2 to its charging distance. In addition, attached character stands adds +1 to their attack characteristic during a dual action. Sweet. So they're the long bomb chargers. That's really good. I remember my opponent doing this where they're like, movement 5. Ooh, yeah. Oh, I thought these guys were movement 6. Anyway. Raiders movement 5 going up to 7 doing that charge. A lot better than being movement 5 doing a charge. That's really it. Flurry with impact 2. Their clash 2 what kind of sucks, but Flurry gets you reroll. Does Flurry let you reroll your impacts? That's my next question. I don't think it does. I don't get any of these special rules with 100 Kingdoms. That's why I'm looking it up. Flurry. Special reroll all failed hit rolls when performing a clash or duel. Yeah, so no impact rerolls, but being clash 2, inspiring to 3, rerolling the other half. Probably get a bunch of damage in with that, especially with the 6 block. Well, it's the front. The front 3 stands, and then... I don't know. Raiders are defense 1, evasion 1. I guess they go to invasion 2 because of the Volva. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I guess it's really just, what, a Jarl? Our Jarl carrier, and then... Like, this is not really the defensive block you want them to be. They're quick because they're lights, and you just kind of want them to sit in a zone and score and set that line of engagement and get something else bigger in there, like the Uger or the 2 Mountain Jotnars. But actually planning to win a fight with Raiders is probably not the best way to go. Then we got Coningir, who took Eagle with Seize the Day, so they get to, like, do a double action. I'll just read Seize the Day, because it's a weird one. Drawing your next command card. That regiment is activated immediately. Once that regiment has completed its activation, the character stand takes its action. So you can draw the character. I think there's a way to get a double duel out of Seize the Day, where you like duel, draw, and then the character goes again or something. But he takes his action, so if he drew him and then dueled, but draw your next command card. Is it a draw event for Seize the Day? Yeah, draw event for Seize the Day. So you only get the 1 clash, but he could get someone else to go. He kind of has that old Turn the Tide. I'm not really sure about it. My opponent didn't really use Seize the Day, and it just kind of fell off to the side from there. Coils of the Serpent. What does that one do? Coils of the Serpent. Where are you? There it is. The regiment this character stand is currently attached to adds +1 to its evasion characteristic. Oh, so that means the Huskarls, because he was part of the Huskarl unit, is evasion 1. Plus with the Volva goes to evasion 2. Okay. And attack 1 to get the Coils of the Serpent. And then the Conning Gears run in 2 units of Bow Chosen and a small thing of Huskarls. They don't have a banner at the end of the day, but that Conning Gear probably could have gone with the Bow Chosen, to be honest. And then you could have threw, I guess, the Huskarls, the Volva. Well, it doesn't matter, but it's just Huskarl medium score, and they could just sat in a zone. Bow Chosen, still really good. If you ever want to figure out if a range unit's good or not, take the volley and the barrage number, so it's, you know, Bow Chosen or barrage 5 and the volley is 3. Add those together, and if it's 7 or higher, that means you have a really good shooting unit. If it's below that, probably not as good, and you probably want to look at some other options. So Bow Chosen, those 2 numbers add up to an 8. They can walk up, take aim, go to 4, which is really good at barrage 5. They have piercing shot, what's really good, because any ones you roll, you just go straight through your opponent's armor, so really good against my defense 4 Ashen Dawn, defense 4 Household Knights, defense 4 Crimson Towers, so any of those. And their only weakness currently is that they are range 14, so it really allows my cavalry to kind of make a long bomb charge to get to them, where I can kill them off before they get around to shooting in, because I really don't want to be shot by Bow Chosen, and my opponent has 2 of them. So as I play the game, I got to figure out a way to deal with these Bow Chosen, because that's the most dangerous thing I see right off the bat. The Valkyries, I can kind of get into like a thumb war with Ashen Dawn, and like they can just sit there and I'll swing something around eventually. Mountain Jotnars being cleaved too, I gotta be careful because they'll start cutting through armor of the Ashen Dawn and the Crimson Towers and Household Knights, but I can probably saturate enough threats to kill them off. Raiders I really don't care for. Huskarls I can probably kill. And then it's just Uger die. Their defense too, they're gonna be like saving on an evasion 1 against like Crimson Towers, or still evasion 1 against Household Knights. Ugers, you want to hit first, you do not want to be hit. And yeah, that's kind of my opponent's list. I'm just gonna slow roll the rules. You can pause it and just, you know, check out anything that I might have skipped over, not going into much detail. And yeah, have a look at the game. Spiteful Revenge. Where's that one go? This regiment benefits the blood of the Yarnharl army. Special roll despite its class. Oh, it's probably on the Mountain Jotnars? Yeah, it's on the Mountain Jotnars. Okay, let's go look at the scenario. The scenario we're playing today is Maelstrom, and I've kind of come around more on this scenario, and on top of me playing the scenario today, I actually played it 2 days ago at my local gaming store, and I did really well on it, so I knew what I had to do. And if you're ever playing Maelstrom, you want to, I'm just going to grab red, you want to secure these 2 9-inch zones, because for the first couple of turns, let's go to green again, on from turns 1 through 4 and 9 through 10, you get 2 points for the 6-inch and 1 point for the 9, while turns 5 and 8, you're going to get 1 point for the 6-inch and 2 points for the 9s. And the fastest a majority of lists are ever going to get here is actually on turn 3. So it's not going to be very long of sitting on those 2 9s being tied with your opponent if they control the middle. So my opponent went up here and controlled the middle. And then you're just kind of like, all right, I get 1 point on both of these, you get 2 here. And then when it swaps, it's like, okay, now I'm getting 2 and you're getting 1. Now you're getting that point lead, and when it swaps back again, you already have this, like, you're tied or having a point lead with your opponent the entire time. So securing those 2 9-inch zones is kind of key to this. However, you got to watch out for your opponent, who will hopefully understand it after watching this video. Aha! And will then swing and look for your weaker side and swing over and throw more at one of your sides that's weakest, and then go and control it so that they control this. At that point, you know, you got to go and swing over and try and take the middle. So it's that bit of back and forth, but you kind of want to have more, like, you want to take 2 out of the 3 minimum, and you want to focus more on the 9s, because even if you get into a gridlock through the majority of the game, you're going to outscore your opponent and win. And that's really what I got to say about this. Let's go look at the table. Here's the table we played on today. And I'm just going to circle the zones because they're hard to see. There's that clear FC zones from online. This 6-inch zone actually, like, is the perfect thing here. So wherever this like stonework is, it basically encircles that, and the other 9's over here. So you got your 2 9s on the outside and your 6 in the middle. Yeah, I'm gonna go cut up some neoprene mats. I'm just gonna take some old neoprene mats and just cut them up and be like, there we go. There's the 6s we all need. For terrain, you got hindering, obscuring, obstructing forests that are size 2. So I gotta watch out my cavalry going to that. However, because of the hindering changes in the rules, I only need to get less than half my cavalry stands into the terrain to not be affected by it, which is really nice. Allows the list to play a lot better and also allows me to deal with the terrain better. We have a size 4 garrison right here. It's obstructing because you can't see through it. We have a size 2 rock, which is obstructing, and then we got a size 1 rock right over there. Not bad for terrain, but it really doesn't cover much of the board. Like, there's still these lanes, as you can see here. I will say, I'll use blue. This garrison does get into my way at one point where I'm trying to get a regiment of household knights around it and kind of around and into here. And I'm just trying to like figure out, okay, well, if I try and go for a long bomb charge, I'll probably get stuck on the woods and I'll have half my stands there, so that'll get me no impact, so it kind of sucks. And then like, can I do it on my clash? And like, that's the only real terrain here that kind of comes into effect that I recall. I think I'll use blue again. This forest over here comes into effect, but it's mostly because I have like some Crimson Towers sitting in it, so I can see through it to charge some guys. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm in range. I'll just do it on the clash, and I just charge in and be like, clash, because I'm like, whatever. Yeah, it's not bad. I would like a little bit more terrain, but one of the big things is I like terrain to be in the zones, and it kind of shows. Like, put the terrain in the zones. Like, I don't even mind, like, something as small, let's see here, I'll use purple. This obstruction on the left here, I don't even mind if that's in the zone, because it's small enough not to cover the entire thing. Like, within reason, be reasonable. Like, if you took that garrison piece of terrain, what I've circled in blue, and you've moved that into this zone, and it covered a majority of it, and then, like, the only thing you could fight over was, we use black, was, like, this little strip right here. Well, that's going to be a problem. But if you're putting a forest in there, some water, maybe a hill, like, you're fighting over something instead of just like, yeah, the land over there, go get that field. Lastly, I want to say is that, yes, once again, I'm on the same table, on the same side. I hope these don't blend in all together like it is going to be for me. But with that, let's go to turn 1 and get this game underway. So, here's turn 1. I'm just going to circle these zones again. Hopefully give you an idea of what we're looking at that you got to be aware of for Maelstrom, because they are a little hard to see. There we go. Things that come on, I get my 1 unit, mounted squires. Things my opponent gets are 2 units of bow chosen, and a Jarl with his raiders. And I think that's all his lights. So I'm kind of like, oh, this isn't fun. I win the roll-off, he wins the roll-off, and I'm like, okay, well, shit, we're like, no matter where I'm going, I'm gonna get counter-deployed by a billion lights. So I just go and I just run up, and I run up just enough that if he double marches, he can't take aim and shoot me next turn, and he has to keep going. So I'm like, okay, I'll just run up to that. Then, as you can see, my opponent runs up both units of bow chosen towards my mounted squires, because that's an easy target for them to kill. And then he runs his Jarl with his raiders in the middle, and he's heading towards this zone right here. That's really it for turn 1. There's not much I can really make out, because I played this game kind of on the back foot for the first bit, because a lot of my Ashen Dawn, Crimson Towers, Household Knights, all my other stuff doesn't really come onto the table until much later in the game. So I gotta play very conservatively for the first bit, and I just let my opponent come forward, but I stay just out of their range, or just take a shot here and there, just to kind of hold off and, you know, wait for the bigger things to come out, wait for the Ashen Dawn to come out, wait for the Crimson Towers to come out. And I try and bait my opponent, I want to say, more on one side of the table than the other, so that I can lock down a zone easier. And he's already committed 2 units of bow chosen to the right side. And now I kind of want to think about, how much more can I get my opponent to commit to the right side, so that later on I can swoop in with maybe some Crimson Towers that can just sit in this zone, or a unit of Household Knights or something, so that, you know, he doesn't suspect me looking at the other parts of the table. But let's go to turn 2 and see how that goes. Here's turn 2. And I get my Household Knights on. And that's it. My opponent, however, gets Conning Gear with the Huskarls, Ogre, and Velks. And I think that's all his mediums, and I'm kind of like, oh, this is not great. So I win the roll off to go first, and I back up my Mounted Squires just enough that he has to do a double march to get to me. And my opponent, I might have over double march, but it's not the end of the world from their perspective, because like if they kill those Mounted Squires next turn, because like I'm kind of running out of board space to put them, he can then move the Bow Chosen to sit right here, and then he can get something else that can score to sit behind it. And he can also start thinking about swinging the Bow Chosen to the other side of the board, and locks down that zone for me, and I'm like, oh, that's great. My opponent then runs his Raiders and Jarl up the table, and just gets into that zone right here, and scores the 2 points for that. I then bring up my Household Knights. I kind of go this way because he hasn't deployed anything over there, and he's kind of more focusing on the right side of the table, so I'm like, oh, you know, maybe I'll get something over there, and just kind of sneak a point in, because I don't really want to lose a whole bunch on the right side, what's currently happening with this whole fiasco. The middle looks pretty rough as well, because I don't like those Household Knights are never going to kill that big block of Raiders. And I might be able to get into that 9-inch zone next turn, just kind of like, just tow it, and outscore my opponent, or maybe even just get in there and contest it so that they're not, because like Huskarls versus Household Knights, have one more defense, they have one more clash, so it's like kind of that back and forth of what, you know, is offense or defense is going to carry it through, but they have a Conning Gear who's probably going to kill me. However, if I can get that Conning Gear to fight closer to my end of the table, so if I have my Household Knights run here next turn, I can then bring in something and kill the Conning Gear and Huskarls really easily in the next couple turns. Household Knights can sit there, and those things that killed them can just run off and kill more stuff. My opponent then brings out the Ogre. I think he's going to use the Ogre as the hammer and the the Huskarls as the anvil. And he's looking to basically just commit those 2 units to this zone to score it, because he's got the middle one locked down right now, and he's currently going to look to locking down the 2 sides. The Valkyries and the Volva, I'm not 100% sure what his plan was here. I think he was planning, because I did see him do this in the next couple turns, to have the Velks and the Volva run to the zone and secure it, and then have the Raiders kind of run around in my backfield here and just be like, blah, 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 blah. make it look like that. And so now I got to deal with them, and they can like charge anything that, you know, automatically comes onto the table, and it's going to be super annoying. So it holds me back, and they can score those points and hopefully establish an early lead that I can't come back from and keep me out of stuff. But that's turn 2. Let's go look at turn 3. Here's turn 3. And as you can see, I got both units of Ashen Dawn onto the table. Now, this is really good for me, and my opponent only got 1 Mountain Jotnar on the table. So, first things first, I believe my opponent wins the roll-off, has this unit of Bow Chosen sneak up the table, and they take a shot at my Mounted Squires, as you can see here. And then I was like, oh, that's not really good. My Mounted Squires go, they kind of get up onto the table. You know, they come from back here, they go up a little bit, and they're like, sweet, we're going to stand there. Because, you know, I'm like, alright, well, they're going to die anyway. I have Ashen Dawn coming. I can put a unit of Ashen Dawn in that right zone, and that'll hold it down for, like, the entire game as I keep getting into fights with Bow Chosen. And if I can tie up both Bow Chosen at the same time with my other unit of Mounted Squires, I can lock down the shooting, score the zone, kill off all the Bow Chosen, secure that. Cool, that's a plan. His next unit of Bow Chosen, shoot the same unit of Mounted Squires. They're broken. I'm like, alright, you're at like 1 or 2 health left, you're probably dead. Not the end of the world though. You absorb the shots from the Bow Chosen. My second unit of Mounted Squires runs up the table 19 inches. as far forward as I want, because I'm looking at getting these Ashen Dawn into those into those Bow Chosen, and then those Mountain Squires on the right into those Bow Chosen. And if I can do that, his Mountain Jotnar that he's deployed, as you can see over here, won't be able to go through the Bow Chosen because they're going to be tied up on Mountain Squires, and I can have those units fight and kill them off at my own leisure, and the Mountain Jotnar is not going to be able to get through them. And if I have my Ashen Dawn into a fight with those Bow Chosen, he's not in the zone right now, and I will be scoring it, and he can't get to me. And that's my plan for next turn. But this is all the setup before that. My opponent then, I think he like pushes himself up more into the zone with the Raiders and the Jarl. He doesn't think about moving forward very quickly, but he kind of does that to be like, okay, he doesn't know what else is coming on, he doesn't know where the Ashen Dawn are going, and I'm like, alright. So I then deploy my next unit of Ashen Dawn right at the middle, because Ashen Dawn versus Jarl, or the Jarl and the Raiders, I'm going to win that fight, and then I'm going to secure the zone. So now I'm in the way, and he's like, oh, that's not going to be that great. So he then pulls his Velks up here so that he can either go to the right zone and help it out, or to the left zone and help it out. And Ashen Dawn versus Raiders, he's probably going to go into the middle zone and deal with that. Last thing I do is my opponent, well, before the last thing I do, my opponent runs his Huskarls and Coningir into the zone, but they only have 2 stands in the zone. And I go, okay, cool. And I run the Household Knights into the zone to get all 3 stands on it so I can score that zone. So my opponent is scoring the middle zone for 2 points, and I'm scoring the left zone for 1. He sees that, he moves the Ugur up, and he rotates them so that he can have them charge into Household Knights or charge into anything else that's happening over there. And that's kind of the table. Like, now we're kind of getting to that setup to see who's going to win that initiative and who's going to get stuff done first. So let's go to that. I think that's going to be turn 4. Yeah, turn 4. Here's turn 4. My opponent goes, I believe they have one of these units of Bow Chosen that you can see back here that are engaged by the Ashen Dawn. Oh, I should talk about what comes in. I always forget to do that. I'm just like, stuff happened. I get the rest of my list, you know, Household Knights, Crimson Towers, more Crimson Towers. My opponent gets his last Mountain Jotnar. It's like, sweet. So, the fun stuff, because that's what we're here for. If you recall, there's a Mountain Squire right here. He was having the time of his life, being broken, had like 1 wound left. One of these 2 Bow Chosen units shot him in the face and he died. And I'm like, okay, cool. I trigger my next card, what was the Mounted Squires, and I run and charge the unit that was over here into that unit and do a bunch of damage, as you can see. Leaving them down to 1 stand, and not allowing my opponent's Mountain Jotnar to charge in because, you know, that stand is engaged and he doesn't have enough room. Sweet, that's perfect, that's where I want to be. Next thing, he draws his Raider card, who were in the zone, and he runs them into my Ashen Dawn, and he does a March charge, and I'm like, oh, okay, and he does a bunch of impact attacks, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I activate my Ashen Dawn card, and I choose the one over here, and I think I do the safer March charge to get in, and I just do a bunch of wounds on impacts. I think I kill off a stand here, as you can kind of see. And I'm like, well, now I'm engaged, and I'm just gonna bless off any of their no-cleave damage with their fists. But that also keeps the second Mountain Jotnar trapped behind them. And I am scoring that right zone, so now I'm super happy. So, locked my opponent out of that zone, tying up the Bow Chosen, not have to deal with their shots anymore. I will have to deal with the Mountain Jotnar at some point, but if I can hold off long enough, I won't have to deal with the Mountain Jotnar right away. Next thing what happens, my opponent then has his Huskarls, as you can see on the left here, charge and fight the Household Knights. I think one of these Household Knights, this like silver one's down to 1 wound after all the damage, but I did a lot of saving because he has no cleave. And then I trigger my Ashen Dawn in the middle here, wipe out half of the Raiders, and I'm like, okay, fine. That's good for me because I'm going to kill them, and then I'm going to probably, you know, just do a clash, and I'll just charge into these Velks. I then deploy my Household Knights here because I'm looking at, can I get the charge into the rear or the side of the Velks? And do eventually do it, but it ends up being like a march charge. Because if I tried to do for a charge, it was like a 3 with a reroll based on like shortest distance. I'll use a different color. I'll use this one. Shortest distance was like here. It was like a 3 with a reroll. So something I'd probably go for. Due to how that building was in the way, I would end up with my Household Knights with more than half in the hindering terrain and not get my impacts. And I was kind of looking at it, I'm like, I kind of want the impacts because they're Clash 4 with rerolling 6s at Brutal 1. Or I can be just Clash 4 with Cleave 1. And I'm like, I kind of want the impacts. So next turn you'll see me over there, but I just march charge instead of just doing a charge. Next thing my opponent does is they run their Ogre from here into the zone. Because my Household Knights on the left here did a clash, wiped out the Huskarls so that they're tied for stands, so no one would be scoring. And so he gets the Ogre in there. And at that point, I get both of my Crimson Towers up the table. They go that way because I want to kill off the Ogre, kill off the Huskarls. Like, Huskarls getting charged on the side and losing that shield and then Brutal Impact 2. They're gonna die even if they're Evasion 1. Like, I think there's 6 wounds left on these guys. Like, I did really good on a Household Knight. Just Inspire Clash was really, really good on me. And then the other Crimson Towers that are in the woods there, I'll just charge, and I'll just kill off the Ogre with the Clash. What's gonna be Cleave 1 because I charged, and that's gonna get them to Evasion 1. So with that, I'm just kind of setting up to secure that zone. Hopefully keep these Household Knights alive long enough so that they can stay there and score it, and then I can run the rest of the Crimson Towers to the right and start sweeping across the table. For scoring, my opponent scores 1 point in this zone, 2 in this zone, and I get the 1 point over on the right side. However, my opponent is now engaged with me. They're losing stands, things are starting to break through, and I believe next turn is turn 5, and there's going to be a huge swap of what's alive and what's dead. So let's go look at that. Here's turn 5, and first thing I do is I believe I have my Household Knights go. Yeah, I think these Household Knights who are back here go. They march up, they then do a side charge, kill a bunch of stuff. Like, I think I wipe out like a majority of their stands. I get like 4 of them and break the unit. And because now there's nothing here, we have to figure out how to place them, and I can't like diagonally slide this way because I'll hit the building. So we're just like, okay, you just kind of swoop around more until you touch. And then he goes, I think his regiment, what is it, Raiders go? I don't even think they actually go. It probably was his Huskarls. I think his Huskarls go and just kill off 2 stands of Household Knights. And I'm like, oh no, 2 stands of Household Knights. What am I going to do? That's fine. I then have my Ashen Dawn go, they activate here, kill off the Raiders, and then I just charge in, do some impact attacks, and get them stuck. My opponent goes with the Volvas at some point, rallies, just attacks with the Velks. The Volva then heals and gets this stand on the end back, right there. And currently, I believe that stand is out, and we're currently tied for the middle scenario with the 3. Actually, I think the Volva's a light. Let me check that. I'm just gonna grab my phone and check that. A live update to find out if I'm spewing nonsense out of my mouth. Nords, Volva. Volva's a light. Nope, I scored that. Because they have 2 medium stands and I have 2 heavies. Nope. That would be tied. Yeah, never mind. It's tied. I knew it was tied. Because maybe, I think I thought because the Volva scores, because it was a medium, but no, it's a light. So currently we're tied. No one scores that middle objective. Alright, not the end of the world. Next thing that goes, I have my Mounted Squires go. They just clash and kill the Bow Chosen. They're always Inspire, so I don't have to Inspire for that. Then I'm like, well, I might as well charge them into the Mountain Jotnar. So I do that, do 1 damage. And at the end of the turn, this Mountain Jotnar goes and just kills off 2 of the Mounted Squires. And, the last one there's broken. And it's like, okay, that guy's not going to live very long. My Ashen Dawn on the right side there. They kill off their Bow Chosen. I bless off their attack because it was like a bunch of rolls coming in because they can like Inspire up to 4. And it was like 9 attacks coming in. I'm like, I'll bless this. And good thing I did because I rolled like a bunch of 6s and then I re-rolled it and it was like, yeah, I'm fine. However, that did leave the Mountain Jotnar free to then charge the Ashen Dawn, and he kills a stand and puts some wounds on another one. However, he's not in the zone, so I'm still scoring it, and that's what matters. And then on the left there, the Crimson Towers start going. I have one unit of Crimson Towers side charge the Huskarl and his Conning kill them all off, and then I think I did that with the charge attack, and that's why they're kind of in a weird spot, because I'm trying to shimmy around, except I don't have enough movement to clear that one Household Knight, so I just shimmy as much as I can. And then before his Ogres can go, I have my Crimson Towers charge in and just do a clash attack and kill off 2 Ogre, and like the last one's on 1 health. I think that Ogre did an attack back, except I declared this as my Supremacy phase for that Blessed, for that Hardened 1, and I just bless off the attack, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. At that point, I score the left zone as well, the right zone, and we're tied in the middle, so that's 4 points for me, and now I'm making that score lead back. And I've kind of secured the left side. I just got to kill off that 1 Ogre, and then those 2 units of Crimson Towers are going to swing and start heading towards the right. I'll just draw a big arrow. The Velks are kind of getting stuck between a horse and another horse, so they're not having a great time there, because I'm just going to start throwing clash attacks at them until I kill them all. And then at that point, I'm probably just going to 180 all the Household Knights, and they're going to start going to the right side. And I just kind of have to hold off long enough to kill both the Mount Jotnar and hold on and, you know, like take that right zone. And then I got this game. And even if I decide to hold on to just 2 of these zones, I'll probably score enough to win. And that'll be that. So let's go look at turn 6 and see how that went. Here's turn 6. I believe I put a bunch of damage from the Ashen Dawn on the right onto this Mountain Jotnar. He's down to like 7 health. And I'm like, sweet. His Mountain Jotnar kills this Mounted Squire who is here. And then he just kind of moves him so that he can look for that side charge next turn. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm still scoring that zone, so that's still 2 points for me. He does his Velk attack, I believe, into the Ashen Dawn here. I then go and Ashen Dawn attack, Household Knight attack. They both just inspire and clash and just secure the kill to get rid of these Valkyries, and so I don't have to deal them anymore. That scores that zone for me. I believe the Ogre get to go, and he does some damage. Oh yeah, you can see right there. There's some damage. But not enough for me to really worry, and then I just kill off the Ogre. I just inspire clash to secure it, because I'm just like, make sure things are dead, throw as much dice as I can to stuff, make sure I can hit as accurately, because now I'm just looking to secure everything, and so I can nicely turn and swap, because I got plenty of turns left, because I think this is turn 6. And I'm for sure going to be scoring 2 of these 3 zones, and I still have the right zone scored, and this is going to get me 3 points. So, point on the left, point on the middle, point on the right. And it's really, can 2 Mountain Jotnar kill off the rest of my list? I don't think so. The Crimson Towers, you know, as you can see here, like this 3 stand just kind of reforms and starts marching. And, you know, I'm already making those plays to like get the rest of the list over towards those Mountain Jotnar. And I'm talking to my opponent at this point, and he's like, well, he's kind of like, well, I'm kind of done. I can kind of get on that zone, and then you got to bring everything around, and you'll kill it off, and I get some points. But like, I'm kind of done. I'm like, okay, well, let's go to turn 7. Maybe you'll have 2 Jotnar instead of 1. Whoever wins the roll off, and we'll see how dice go. And he's like, okay, sure. So we will go to turn 7, and we'll find out who won Supremacy and how did the dice go. Here's turn 7. I won the Supremacy, and I just inspire clash and kill this Mountain Jotnar. And at that point, my opponent goes, yeah, even if the Mountain Jotnar on the right's there kills off the Ashen Dawn, who still have Blessed, it's still not going to be really enough, because the rest of your list is just going to, like, Household Knights are going to reform and just start marching this way. Both unit Crimson Towers are going to start running this way. And I'm just going to kill off the last Mountain Jotnar and score everything and win. And so we just call it there, and I just take these 3 zones again, and that's the game. So let's go look at the score. Here's the score. At the end of the game, I'm scoring 14 points. My opponent got 9, and we ended on turn 7. So what can I say about this game? I I kind of played to my strengths. Very early on, the Nords player here had a very overwhelming advantage of board positioning and control, and tried to tie up some stuff, but I had enough punchback in the Ashen Dawn to get through them. I never let the Bochosen shoot at the Ashen Dawn because I know how deadly that unit is, and I never want to be shot by them again in my entire life. So having the Mounted Squires just run and engage and charge and like clash and get the Ashen Dawn running up, like, I'd rather be punched by Bochosen than ever be shot by Bochosen because I got that blessed. And I can just take the hit on the Ashen Dawn in the melee. And I think my opponent should have just creeped up enough if they could have. I don't remember the distances because it's now been a couple days. But if they could have crept up and got some Bochosen in the zones, just to contest would have been a lot better, because then once they die, he has space for something else to fill that. Like the Mountain Jotnar could have then gone in and then contested as well, and even scored, because the Mountain Jotnar stand counts as 3 stands, and if he killed one Ashen Dawn, well, it's 2 to 3, he's going to be scoring that zone, and that's going to give him more points. Velks, with the Valkyries, I did what you need to do against a blessed unit, and that's to get multiple threats in, and that's with the Household Knights from behind and the Ashen Dawn in the front. So my opponent could only bless off one of those rolls, and it wasn't really good either way, because the Velks from behind were going to be down a defense, and the Velks from the front were going to be down a defense from the cleave. And if I got some activations before they activated, then they're not getting that Ruin of Shielding, so they would have been even lower. So it's kind of just like, this is not going to be that great. I know my opponent basically used his evasion stat, I think it goes up to like 2, and then blessed with the evasion stat to survive more, but eventually just weighted numbers, and like what I did on that initial charge of killing off 4 stands really helped me punch through and kill the rest of the Valkyries, so I didn't have to deal with them for the rest of the game. And I had 2 sources of damage coming into them, and if they were still around as the game went on, the Crimson Towers on the left side would have swung around and eventually gone to the Velks as well, so it would have been like more damage saturation to the point where my opponent's kind of like, I'm running out of blessed, I'm running out of guys, I'm still taking damage, and I would have just like overloaded the blessed systems and just been like, alright, there we go. I think my play at the start though of conserving my forces was the best play here, because I was getting really terrible in reinforcement rolls, and I thought that was going to be bad, but I was just like, okay, well, don't give my opponent anything, like make them come closer, because if they're close enough and I have a unit walk on, and then I have a unit run up so that they shoot that unit, let's say the Mountain Squires, I don't care if they live or die, and then I can get a March Charge with the Ashen Dawn into Bochosen, then they're shut down. So that conservative play kind of lended me into carrying me into like the later parts of the game. I don't know much more I have to say about this, I'm just kind of thinking about it. Raiders and Jarl, I think that they should have just sat on the zone and just completely encompassed it, so that I had no way to get on it, so I had to kill them before I could score it, and then have the Valkyries right behind them, so that once they're all dead, the Valkyries go on, and now I gotta deal with the Valkyries, who hopefully are fighting like front on, and will be able to use that Shield of Ruining and their higher defense with Blessed to survive, instead of being, attacked from the front and back and re-rolling morale and all that stuff. So yeah, that was game 2. BonkTable has a podcast. It's in the description below. BonkTable has a Discord in the description below. If you want to ask more questions about this game, go ahead to our Discord and give me a shout out. I'll answer any of the questions you have. Thank you for watching, and hopefully game 3 will be up soon, and you can enjoy that one as well. Bye!